What you need to do is visualize the cannabinoid as a three-dimensional molecule where one part of the molecule is configured to fit the nerve or immune cell receptor site, just like a key in a lock. There are at least two types of cannabinoid receptor sites, CB1, which regulates your central nervous system, and CB2, which helps regulate your immune system. In general, CB1 activates the CNS messaging system, and CB2 activates the immune system. But it's much more complex than this, and they even are finding that there might be a third endocannabinoid system that is yet to be discovered, but there are other things there that they're finding. So with the cannabis, there are a lot of different varieties of the plant. A lot of people don't know, like Charlotte's Web, for instance, that the Stanley brothers at an organization called Realm of Caring that they use out in Colorado, that is very, very high in CBD. Unfortunately, all the hybridization over the years with this plant to bring out the psychoactive component, or THC, that's what's given this such a bad rap. So that's why when you hear the word hemp, marijuana, everybody thinks the word hemp is equivalent to the street drug marijuana, which is not true. We used to grow hemp in this country. It's great. It could heal our economy. I mean, that's a whole other presentation in and of itself of all the uses of hemp and how it can really help heal our economy.
But the THC is very good too. It's the thing that's curing cancer. And it's like they were complaining, oh, well, the joints they smoke today aren't like what I smoked in the 60s. Well, good, because the more THC, the better. and if you smoke a joint, you're only getting about 16% of the THC. That's enough to get you high, but not enough to cure you. If you want to cure yourself, you got to take a pound of marijuana, boil it down to about 2 ounces of essential oil, the hemp oil, and then you just eat that. Eat a gram of it a day for 3 months. You have to work your way up slowly. Start very slow, like a speck on your finger, and work your way up to a gram a day for 3 months. And that's like the known street cure. And I shouldn't use the word cure because there is no actual silver bullet, but this one's pretty good. It really gets you going medicinally. You have to do the diet too, though. One of my best friends, Ronnie, rest in peace, brother, Ronnie Smith, Roland A. Doobie, he's going to be in my documentary too. I've interviewed him. He passed away last night or the night before. Very heartbreaking for me to come to a thing like this. And because I see people all the time and they cure themselves all the time, because you can. But this guy, his diet wasn't great. He admitted to me, I talked to him a week ago, he stopped eating it and was smoking it, where you only get maybe 16% instead of 95% from eating it. So that caught up to him and unfortunately passed the other day. But that's just to tell you, once you get yourself cured of cancer, you can't quit your lifestyle now. You can't go back to eating chocolate bars and drinking and smoking or whatever. Once you get this new lifestyle, you got to stick with it. Because that's what he didn't do, and I've had a few friends do that, and it's just heartbreaking. So once you cure yourself, make sure you stay good, okay? Call me if you're having any problems.
Well, they also switch back and forth between a lot of different protocols too, and sometimes that can be problematic. So we definitely want to encourage you to work with somebody on helping you heal yourself. But so I want to tell you real quick the story of Sarah and Landon Riddle. I get calls on parental rights for my show because so many parents their child is being medically kidnapped. The government agencies, you take your child to a hospital and you tell them that you want to use alternative therapies, that is a red flag for them. You tell them you want a second opinion. That is a red flag for them to not only call the state officials on you, and you might get DCFS that shows up at your doorstep. That happens more than once. I mean, even with something as simple as vaccination, you say, no, I want to exercise my right to an informed choice. They will abuse their power, abuse their authority, usurp that over you, and then take control of your child. Also, if you have a state marriage license, any product thereof, if you have children in the marriage, then that actually kind of makes your child property of the state. So that's something to think about as well. But that is why they can gain and maintain authority over your children in a medical setting, citing either medical neglect or thinking that you intend to do your child harm. I've watched this happen over and over and over again. The film Cut, Poison, Burn, featuring Donna and Jim Navarro, is a really great story, not only about the cancer industry, but about their story and struggle with parental rights. Currently in our government, some people say we do have parental rights documentation or wording, verbiage in our Constitution that should give us the parental rights to make those decisions, but that is not being honored. There's another organization called parentalrights.org who are trying to amend the Constitution to include more rights, especially regarding medical freedoms, educational decisions, and spiritual systems to help our children to be able to, for us to make those necessary decisions for them. But we, until we get something more in concrete that can be used, it's happening everywhere. It happens with the birthing industry, it happens in the vaccine industry, it happens now in the cancer industry. The standard of care is chemotherapy for children. Okay, so when you take a child off of chemo, or you just tell your doctor you don't want to do it, be prepared for a fight. Some families have had to leave the country. They spend $12,000 to $15,000 a month in order to facilitate alternative care and alternative therapies for their children. That is not medical neglect. That is not doing nothing. So what DCFS has found themselves in the middle of, and I've dealt with several families, they won't even take the kids away because the families can prove that they're doing something to help their child. They have the blood results. They have the blood work. They show them that, look, on cannabis oil, my child has no cancer. On chemo, he almost died twice, and that's the story of Sierra and Landon Riddle. They lived in Utah. Her 3-year-old got T-cell ALL leukemia, which is a very common leukemia. They always, the oncologist and cancer industry says it's very commonly put back into remission with chemotherapy, but a lot of children die from the actual treatment. In fact, in some of the package inserts with chemotherapy, it says not intended for the use in pediatrics. That's why it's important for you to read your package inserts on any medical treatment that you do. That will help you understand the side effects, it will help you understand the ingredients, it will help you understand what you're about to jump into. And we did a story of a man in Chicago, Jay Matthews is his name. He was a pharmacist. His daughter was medically kidnapped, held with an armed guard outside of her door at Rush Hospital in Chicago. We were told, me and all my colleagues at Natural News on our radio show, when we covered this news story, we were told by the courts that we could not even mention his daughter's name because she was now state property. You know, they took his parental rights away. And once they did that, she has now had 20 surgeries or something. This cancer has spread. They feed her sugar in the hospital to reward her. He's lost all of her parental rights. The sarcoma kept coming back in her arm, and now they've amputated her arm. She's had MRSA. She's had staph infection. She's had every illness you can imagine, and no immune system to fight it off. It makes no sense to wipe away the one system that we were given in order to fight things. It's like taking the army away, or I was talking with Chris yesterday in an interview. It's like giving a mechanic no tools and giving him your car and say, fix my car, and taking all of his tools away. It's that simple. When we kill our immune system, we lose our chances at fighting anything.
And he had her in a great alternative clinic in Arizona.
And because she was having pain,
and she was almost cancer-free. If they would have left her there, she would have been fine.
Right. Wow. And because of the pain, he took her into the emergency room like any good father would. My child's in pain, I can't figure out what's wrong. She's had all these procedures. And as soon as he told them he did alternative therapies, that was it. He started to read the package inserts. He had access to all of that information. He had the training as a pharmacist. So he knew what he was about to get into with his daughter and could not consciously do it. What parent should have their child ripped from their arms for that? It's like, sticking a gun to your child's head and is somebody expecting you to pull the trigger. Because if you don't do it, they're going to hold you accountable. If you do it and she dies, they're not going to take responsibility for it. And we are left to live with that horrible truth, that horrible reality. So Sierra and Landon, moving to another story. Sierra and Landon Riddle, they lived in Utah. Her little 3-year-old got cancer. She started going into mama bear mode and doing all of the research. Meanwhile, doing the standard of care. He almost died from chemotherapy twice. She says there has to be something more humane. There has to be something more effective. I can't rightfully, in my mind, put my child through this. So she moves to Colorado to basically the oncologist in Utah. There was really not a whole lot more she realized that they could do, and she realized that he was on the verge of his deathbed as well. So off the record, her oncologist in Utah, when she asked her about cannabis oil, when she said, hey, I've been researching this, what do you think? She said, off the record, I can only answer you off the record, but she said, do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. Go follow your heart and your conscience. So Sierra started giving Landon cannabis oil. And guess what? His hair grew back. He started getting an appetite back. He started thriving. Then she moves to Colorado, where it's legal, thinking that the oncologists and everyone there would be supportive of this medicinal modality for him because it's legal. And lo and behold, there was a scuffle with that oncologist. So meanwhile, Landon is continuing to be cancer-free, staying on the cannabis oil, thriving. And compared to the other kids on chemo, you can't beat when you see a kid on chemo. If you've not ever seen it, watch a St. Jude's commercial. It's the most horrific thing you've ever seen, and there's nothing. You just feel so helpless, and they're so sick. And to see a child being able to thrive and recovering from cancer, at least keeping the cancer away, The two just don't compare.
That's the irony. There's about 3 of them we're following right now for my film that, you know, not only is the oil curing their cancer, but it's curing the chemo. I mean, because most people die of the chemo. Like,
Right.
a lot of the kids that, like the parents, you know, they're all there talking. Well, all the other kids are dead, pretty much. The ones on the cannabis oil aren't.
And the studies that
Whoa.
you hear about, yes. Did you have a question?
Now, are these being able to get a prescription for it? Is this any way covered? Is any insurance covered at all?
No,
Repeat
not
the
yet.
question.
Oh, you asked if there's any insurance coverage for this. I think in the states that it's legal. I honestly do not know, but I can't imagine that they wouldn't jump on that bandwagon. But you don't think not even medical
I
marijuana?
don't think it's covered by insurance.
Okay, I mean I can't imagine that they would.
We're
right
lucky
away,
if you're lucky if you even live in a state that's legal.
Right.
And that's not because my friend Ronnie, I was just talking about the reason why he died. This is the reason why he died, because that cop pulled him over. He showed him his marijuana license, and the cop said, I don't use that. Even though it's Arizona, a legal state, you killed him. That cop killed him. Because he had the card saying, I'm allowed to have this marijuana, I'm going to die without it. They put him in jail for 3 months. They had to let him out because he was going to die. He almost died 3 times in jail. 3 times. And they didn't want to pay for hospice. Arizona judges, man, and the police there, horrible. He almost died, so they let him out. He got back on the oil. He started listening to me finally about the diet, and he was doing great. He was doing really good for a few months. Too good. Is then he got, I guess I don't really need it. He just started smoking, and probably went back to those Kentucky Fried Chicken. You can't go back.